Annie here again for another episode of Becoming. What are we becoming today? I am actually becoming myself. It's a very disappointing feeling to come to an understanding that at some point I didn't know myself. And it came with understanding that without God, you can't authentically be yourself. You don't even know who that is, really. All of your interests, some of your personality traits, they might not even belong to you. Not really, right? I realized that with everything that I was going through when I was becoming an adult and all the things that I had went through as a child, past a certain age, I had put on these cloaks of armor made with traumatic materials. I stitched my clothes with anger, hurt, and bitterness. It was hard to undress myself and put on clean clothing because I felt for so long that this armor kept me safe. And just as much as it kept me safe, it was hurting other people. So I have this theory that the armor of God that we read about in Ephesians 6, that people of God should wear, in sin, we wear the enemy's imitation. So I don't know how often we think about it, but a lot of what the devil does mimics and taunts God as if his version, his way of doing things is better. So in sin, I believe we clothe ourselves in what I like to call the enemy's armor, which would of course be the complete opposite of what God would have for us. A belt of fear, an armor of anger on our chests, a feet of perversion because we're walking in the opposite direction of our intended purpose. The helmet of confusion, because confusion is in the mind, right? The shield of hate. That's how we protect ourselves against other people. And the sword of lies. In the armor of God, we have the sword of truth and the word of God, which is truth. And so with the armor of the enemy, we have a sword of lies. We tell lies. We believe lies. Wearing this type of armor to fight not just gives the angels who fight to protect us. The armor of the enemy fights those angels, but each other. In sin, we literally give the demons the weapons and the power that they need. I said all that to say this armor most of my life warded off what was good for me. And I attacked everybody. Everybody could get it. Having gone through so many traumatic events as a child, I lost sight of who I was without it. My personality was altered to fit this world by my experiences. I eventually became so mean that I'm far from a mean person. I'm actually really soft-hearted. But to protect that soft heart, I became very mean. I became so mean. And men often became a target of my wrath. I also didn't feel that I was worthy of other people's love. I sought validation in all the wrong things, but myself, who I truly was, being soft-hearted and giving and loving, they kept getting me hurt. So what was the point in being that anymore? I became the person that I felt people were to me, especially men. I was dishonest, sneaky, and I used them before they could use me. After being used so often, I was like, oh, okay, so that's how men are. So I gotta be this. I gotta be this to protect myself. So I'm gonna be like you. I'll give you an example. My daughter's father was really abusive, which we talked about in the last episode. And when I finally got away from him, I moved back in with my mother. Amazing how God will take you back, right? Humble you down a bit. You ran from the place you were supposed to be. But that's a whole nother story. So for the sake of the story, we'll call my daughter's father Alan. I went back to church, and it was then that I met my husband. He and I became best friends, and for the sake of this story, we'll call my husband Lawrence. Lawrence and I would go to the movies dang near every day. We had no jobs. We just had a monthly membership to the movie theater, so it was cheaper, and we just wanted to spend time together. If we couldn't afford anything, we were okay, like sitting in the park, doing nothing, just talking. We weren't in a relationship initially. We were just best friends. And looking back, I really shouldn't have, without healing from the abuse and hurt that I had endured from Alan, I shouldn't have been with Lawrence, but I did. Lawrence and I dating was so good for a few months. He helped me with my kids. At the time, it was just the two oldest. He was sweet and attentive, and he made sure that we had what we needed as much as he could. Then Alan began to pursue me again. Yeah, he couldn't let go. So I'll never forget the day. He came all the way from New York with his father. It was Easter Sunday. Alan traveled from New York all the way to Toms River, New Jersey with his father. Super late. Mind you, we are in the Word, okay? Praise and worship, then saying, choir, then saying. They didn't took tithe and offering. This man showed up in the middle of, like, service, okay? It was nearly the call to salvation. Like, we was at the end. And he showed up in an all-white suit. If that's not looking for attention, I don't know what it is. He was in an all-white suit. I was so embarrassed, yet nervous, because I'm looking like, what that nigga doing here? I'm still being worked on. I can say nigga. Oh, no, I'm not. I can't say nigga. I'm so sorry. But, anyways, I was like, what are you doing here? What is he doing here? I felt like I was with Lawrence anyway, so I was worried about him. And that Sunday was so disturbingly Alan. It was so bold, so invasive, embarrassingly toxic. He thought he was doing something, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. I'm looking at my mom looking at me, we looking at each other, I look at Lawrence. I'm making sure everybody know on the shock on my face, I had no clue this man was popping up at my church. The audacity to pop up at my comfort place. And asked to speak to my mama. And gave my mother a whole speech on how he healed and was healing from his abuse and the sob story. Okay? Sir, you threw my head into a door and kicked me like a dog. Okay, I got something for you. That's what went through my mind. I got something for you. He apologized and begged and pleaded for me to take him back. Y'all, I did. I took him back. I didn't tell Lawrence that I did, but I did. But when I say something in me snapped, oh, it snapped. I was like, okay, all right. So I don't know if y'all remember Hurricane Sandy. This was around the time Hurricane Sandy happened all those years ago. But this was like shortly after. So the National Guard in New York was activated to help clean New York after Sandy, which Alan was a part of because he was in the National Guard. Before Sandy, because we had got evicted from the house in Trenton because I wasn't able to work after having the baby in the last few months of my pregnancy. Alan didn't keep a job, so we ended up getting evicted, which was why I moved back in with my mom to begin with. And he was broke and homeless, and because of he was activated after Sandy, he became active. So he made a lot of money. You would think he would have got a place to live or a job. Nope. Homeboy pursued me. I think it was like silent obsession, but we'll touch on that like another day. I made sure in my vindictiveness that he paid for trips. After he popped up at church, I was like, okay, I'm gonna take you back. He paid trips. He paid for the trips for me and the kids to get back and forth to New York, to New Jersey to visit, which was quite often. I would tell Lawrence some type of lie as to where I was. Alan would travel from New York to New Jersey as well. This ain't a right across the border trip. We were in like Central. I think it's either Tom's River's like Central or South Jersey. I think it's Central, but it's an hour and a half bus trip. He paid for the hotel stays, the food, all of it. The prices racked up. I was like, I want a new engagement ring. He paid for that too. I was like, I want a nice and big one. He paid for that too. So Lawrence did catch me and Alan one day. He was so heartbroken. I wanted to explain to him what I was doing, but I didn't. And so to avoid feeling bad for him catching us, I was so cold. Mind you, when he caught us, Alan's in the house. I was at a friend's house, actually. And Alan's in the house. And Lawrence pulls up while Alan's in the house about 25 feet away. And I can only imagine the level of hurt Lawrence is feeling in this moment, to be told that the abuser was being chose over him, the good guy. And I was I don't know what to tell you. Lawrence looked at me with so much disdain and told me, "You are just like a nigga." I'm sorry, I keep saying that. I'm sorry. If I'm not supposed to say it, I apologize. But the hurt in me was so proud of myself, because I'm like, yeah, duh. That's the point. That is the point. I was so tired of being ran over, pushed, abused, raped, and misused by some man. I'm not going to say the N word no more. Some man. So why not become one and defend me like a man would? I'll defend me, because I can't rely on men to do it. So I'll be like one. Unfortunately, Lawrence just had to be collateral damage. Not that he did anything, but I was like, he'll get over it. I'm sure he done something to someone else's daughter somewhere else. That's how I comforted myself. Meanwhile, Alan, I got him spending every dime of money in his guilt. Anything I wanted. I knew he wasn't sorry. He hadn't changed. It was temporary. It was to reel me back in. I was still getting calls on my phone from other women. So yeah, I know you ain't changed. But once all the money was gone, I finally explained to Lawrence what I was doing, what I had done. I missed him. So I actually convinced him to, like, let's go get married in secret at the courthouse. That's a whole other day, but we did. I had only had a friend of mine so she could be a witness. For the sake of this story, we'll call her Laura. Laura was my friend. And I was going to tell Alan after Lawrence and I got married. But Laura not only told Alan, she my best friend. She didn't even know Alan like that. I don't even remember how they got in contact. But Laura told Alan 3 days before my wedding day. And not only did she tell Alan my plan, she picked him up and drove him to my mother's house and left. So one day, and I found all of this out after it happened. Alan told me what really happened after, but I didn't understand how my so-called friend brought this man to my mother's house and told him my business and didn't even know him like that. Alan didn't have a car. So one day, me and Lawrence, we got the kids. We just finished hanging out for the day. Him and I are like in bliss because we know we get married in secret in about a couple days. If my mother hears this, I'm so sorry for doing that, because she was really hurt that I got married in secret. I love you, Mom. But anyways, Lawrence and I are getting out of the car to go into my mother's house. He's dropping us off. And here comes Alan popping up from behind the dumpster. Yes, a dumpster. You know, like a community dumpster, like you live in townhomes. The dumpster. He pops up from behind the dumpster. Needless to say, Laura didn't tell me, because they were in cahoots. And Alan walks up on us and he's crying and he's pleading for me not to marry Lawrence and trust him and blah, 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 blah. I laughed. I really laughed. That's how pissed off I was and so proud of myself for hurting him. I knew I could never do him physical harm the way he did me. I could never repay him for the damage he did to my children. This was as close as I was going to get. Lawrence and I got married, but he never got over the level of deception I was capable of. He saw like a different side of me. And even though we still went ahead with the marriage, it affected our marriage for quite a while. It became a cycle, actually. To where once he became physical, I became disturbingly different to him. You too? Eat too, Brute? And once he became physical, there was no remorse in whatever hurt I offered him at that point. Our marriage got so bad, and I know I made that man lose his sanity at least twice, and I'm not over exaggerating. He checked himself into a mental health hospital once because I was so mean to him. But that's not my story to tell, that's his story. But I was so mean. I was so evil. But I was comforted in knowing that I did it because you were mean to me. It's only right that if you go low, I'm going to hell. You go low, I go lower. I was so nice, so kind-hearted that when I felt betrayed and hurt, you earned the hurt you gave to me and then some. It has always been true that forgiveness is not for the other person, it's truly for yourself. Not forgiving someone, first, it doesn't allow space for God to forgive you. Like, God will not forgive you if you don't forgive people. Second, not forgiving someone helps build that armor of the enemy. You begin to shield yourself with anger, and anger produces confusion. You can't think straight. When you're mad, you cannot think straight. And then you operate in fear of what others may do or are capable of doing to you. So you put on this shield of hate, whether it's towards a person, a type of person. For me, it was men. A type of behavior, a type of situation, or even an environment. And you begin to change yourself and walk in perversion. People think, oh, I'm not walking in hate. Yes, you can. You can. I hated men. If it walk like a duck, talk like a duck, quack like it's a duck, and I ain't going near no ducks. I don't want to be no duck. What's your duck? It don't have to be. It don't have to be men. It could be a certain type of situation, a certain type of environment that you're afraid of. What's your duck? You don't even want to go near it. And because you're operating in that, you're not being yourself. There's no possible way that you can operate in fear, hate, anger, and confusion and walk in your true purpose and who are you designed to be. Top it all off, you can't even speak the truth because your truth has been altered. Speaking lies may not mean you're a liar. It could be your truth in that moment. For example, telling people I am a certain type of person, that isn't really true. I became that way because of something that happened to me, not because that's who God designed me to be. Let's take a simple example, a person who's afraid of stage fright because they had a bad experience. One time they stuttered and they got bullied for it, so now they're completely afraid to speak in public. And so their truth is, I'm afraid to speak in public, but God may have intended you to be an excellent preacher. You're meant to speak. So it may be your truth in that moment, but it's not the truth. It's a lie. Another example I've heard lately from this guy who began the conversation with, I've been hurt by a lot of women in certain situations. That's how he started the conversation. So already I'm like, ugh. And he continues to say, when I get married, I want to marry a woman who doesn't want to have more children. If it was up to me, I would have gotten a vasectomy a long time ago. I love my children that I have now, but if I had thought about it, I wouldn't have had them. I don't want to have to take care of any other children. I will if I have to, but I only want to take care of my wife, whoever that may be. My immediate response was that I'm not understanding why you talking to me. I got 4. In my mind, I'm like, you a whole red flag for me, sir. I didn't say it, but I thought it. But God led me to tell him, stop operating in yourself and what you think. You started the conversation with, I've been hurt by women in certain situations. Anything that came after it came from a place of fear and hurt. I don't know, one day he might be an excellent stepdaddy. He might be a grand stepdaddy. And I might refer back to the conversation. Remember you said? Until we ask, we don't know what God has for us. His word says, eyes have not seen nor ears have heard what he has. We get so caught up in what we want, how we want it, that we forget that God does exceedingly, not a small about, exceedingly and abundantly above all that we could ask or even think. I'm thinking it, God laughing. You don't even know. You look into the north, south, east, and west for solutions, and God coming from up top or beneath you with a solid, yeah, you thought wrong. Where do we align our thoughts? I urge you in this moment to dig deep and question your thought process. Where are you aligning your thoughts? Is it with the will of God and what he has for you, what he has for you? And this isn't just those things you feel comfortable with. I'm talking about everything, down to the things that concern you. You may be aligned with God concerning your job, but not a spouse because you so hurt by what Shirley or Eddie did to you 3 or 4 years ago. God said it's not about what you want. I got what you need. And when you align with God, what you need becomes what you want too. But until then, be obedient. Easier said than done, because I know forgiveness isn't easy. That's what I needed to do to become authentically myself. I needed to undress myself to hear God loud and clear concerning what was me according to his will versus what I put on because of some experience or some lingering hurt. It's very uncomfortable. It's very vulnerable. It's a scary thing to remove something that you feel has kept you safe for so long. But it's false. I felt safe being me because I knew couldn't nobody hurt me. Can't nobody get close enough. Truth is, I just didn't want to be hurt anymore, and I was scared. Not just with men, but family. I've had family members. It was family members that raped me. It was people that I knew. The church and friendships. Laura betrayed me. How dare you tell this man who abused me my business? What happened to the girl code? You betrayed me for some man. My ex-best friend right now, not Laura, another one, is currently engaged to Alan. After he did bad things to us both. That's a story for another day. Forgiveness and the willingness to love my enemy, to love those who persecute me, to love those who mean me harm, it's really hard. It's hard. In Matthew 5, verses 43 through 48, it speaks of loving your enemies. And the part that amazed me is that Jesus says that if you love those who only love you, or you only greet your brothers and sisters, how is that out of the ordinary? Where is the reward in that? How does the world see us as followers of Christ if all we do is love those that we get along with? So that means you got to forgive and love Miss Shirley and Mr. Eddie for the hurt they did to you 4, 5 years ago. I don't know their names. I'm just saying. When I truly picked up the armor of God and the clothing of salvation, I wasn't angry anymore. I began to truly and wholeheartedly pray for Alan and his childhood trauma. Because he had some. I prayed for his salvation and everything that it meant for him. I cried for all the hurt, and I prayed that he too reached a true level of peace and understanding of who God designed him to be. I'm not fully there. Because the Lord knows sometimes I see that man's name in my phone and I get this natural anxious feeling of disgust that forms in the pit of my stomach. But in the process of releasing it, I learned my true gifts in the Spirit. One actually being the gift of mercy and the gift of pastoring or shepherd. Both gifts are meant for caring for and nurturing other people and mending their lives through empathy. Like, I can literally feel when other people hurt. I'm very emotional. My emotions were meant for something so much more, but ooh, I be crying. What if one of your gifts were being used for the wrong purpose? What if your perception of the world of people has been altered? I find it quite interesting that you will be hurt by someone, sometimes the people closest to you, and part of your purpose is to be used by God to heal and usher in the same person who doing you dirty. I mean, your examples may not be as extreme as mine were. You may not even be angry anymore. But what have you put on to shield yourself from who you were designed to be? What personality trait? I urge you to dig deep and see yourself as uncomfortable as it may be. Because it really is uncomfortable to mirror to your face and just be like, ooh, that's me. Followers of Christ too, sometimes we as saved folk tend to trust God for some things, but not the things we don't want to change or refuse to change because it keeps us safe. We pull it up to our necks like a blanket at night. Like, ooh, I like this. There have been quite a few saved people I've heard say, that's just who I am. Out of respect, I don't debate. But in my mind, no, it's not. If you have to say that's just who I am, usually, not all the time, but usually it's a shield guarding you against a type of behavior you're not looking to change. But why? We're always supposed to remain teachable and seek counsel. So that's just who I am isn't always a good reply. You must understand the difference between being open to learn and people not understand that God has already told you something and you standing fast in what he told you, because God is who he is and he will deal with you, but he will also use people to tell you what you're not trying to hear. Also learn that God loves us so much, he will remind you. Okay, so you didn't listen to the first one. Let's try again. Here's someone else. Lately, I find myself being told by God to tell my sister something, and she'll laugh and say, I already know. But it makes me think of the amount of love and patience that God will literally just take the time to remind her again to say, hey, ma'am, you still haven't done what I asked you. Or for someone else, what I purposed for you or designed you to do. Not just my sister, me, you, anybody, anything. How many times has God brought something to your attention, but because it takes you out your comfort zone, you decided to ignore it or keep going past it or make an excuse? Maybe it won't God. You lying, you know it was. Don't worry, he'll bring it back up again. It makes me think of that story, Jonah, when he tried to get away from doing what God purposed for him to do. He said, go over here to this dangerous town over here. I need you to go over there. They're over there killing people and doing some crazy stuff. It's like going into a war zone. And I need you to preach the word. Jonah said, you have me mistaken. He said, I'm getting on the boat. I'm out of here. He tried to get away. God could have gotten someone else to do it. But when he calls you, he calls you. To be around a group of people, to talk to some people, to be in that situation that makes you uncomfortable. He told Jonah, oh no, you getting off this boat, even if I gotta make these people throw you off. Jonah got a free trip from a large fish, a whale, whatever, I don't know which one it was, to bring him back. It was a creature in the belly, which, I mean, my theory again, I can't say it had to be pleasant. Like, you in the belly. It had to be some nasty, undigested food in there. It had to stink. You smell fish. It don't smell good. It stink. Jonah tried to do the complete opposite of what God asked him to do. He didn't get a first class ticket back. My theory, I'm pretty sure God had to be annoyed. You just wasted unnecessary time going in the opposite direction. Like, you could actually hide from me. God could have gotten another ship or told them to turn the ship around. Nope. He said, ride in this since you want to try to run. I don't know how many times I've been in my own mess holding on to what makes me comfortable. And God makes my mess uncomfortable. Eventually, He's not going to keep sending you a gentle reminder. It's going to get a little hoarse. Be confident in hearing God's voice when you hear it, whether other people understand it or not. But be open to asking God to reveal what is in you that is or is not what He placed there. He gonna tell you. He happy to tell you about you. He wants to heal you. He wants to take out stuff that's not supposed to be there. And for the sake of saving time, He will not tiptoe around your feelings. He will tell you plainly, hey, sir, ma'am, you're selfish. You're manipulative. You're a liar. Whatever it may be. But He will also help you fix it. Ain't that amazing? He doesn't need to expose you to the whole world. That's your job. You're supposed to testify and let the world see the change. Or be the change. You're supposed to witness and be the example and say, look what God has done for me. He's not petty to walk around and brag about changing you. He could, but He's God. Who got time? It's your testimony. It's your change that people can see that help usher in others. He needs us and we need Him. But He needs us to follow Him, to seek Him, and to be who He designed us to be. We got work to do. We have work to do. So this was my journey of becoming myself and freeing myself from that armor of the enemy to put on the armor of God. Freeing myself from personality traits I had put on to protect myself. Freeing myself of the anger and being mad at every man that walked by thinking he just another Allen. He about to do me dirty. Freeing myself from being afraid of friendships with women because all the women I've been friends with betrayed me. But I'm better now. Look at me becoming me. Look at me becoming me. So I hope you learned something from this. As always, I love the feedback. Please let me know what you got out of it, what you thought of it. Did it help? Did it not help? Anything else you want to add to it, let me know. I appreciate you. Thank you. I hope this got you to look deep. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? That's something I need to change. That's something I need to work on. I don't think God made me that way. Maybe that thing you running from is exactly what God been trying to use. We don't know. This podcast was definitely out of my comfort zone. My sister told me a month ago, you should make it a podcast. And I was like, mind your business. You told me to write, I'm going to write. Mind your business. And look at me, here I am. It didn't just take her, a couple people had to tell me. But I was afraid. I was like, I can't talk about this stuff out my mouth. Like, it's writing it is one thing, but I'm telling my personal business. I'm embarrassed. I'm scared. But here we are. Who knows how it's going to be used, who it's going to help. But I pray all the time that as people listen, God, let it be a seed. You water it and let it grow to whatever you want it in somebody else's life. But He will definitely take the thing that you are afraid of, the thing you didn't ignore, the thing you ran from, and make it something amazing. Look deep. Who are you supposed to be? Who did God make you? Ask Him. He'll tell you. He's happy to tell you. Alright guys, this is it. I hope you look out for the next Becoming episode. I love you and have a good day.